Hello, welcome back. My name is Jonas. We are back in Elles and the Hallberg-Rassy yard on the island of Orust. On the left side we have the Hallberg-Rassy 69, and the last time we met we were out sailing on this beautiful yacht in mid-December. The days were short and it was very cold. Today it's early spring in Sweden, still a little bit chilly, but nothing compared to December. And today we will go out on the smallest Hallberg-Rassy, the 340, and I will sail her on my own. Hope you will enjoy it. It's a beautiful early spring day in Sweden, sunny. We have a wind from northeast. It's around 8 knots of true wind. It's a beautiful day. We've been out sailing now for an hour or so, enjoying this beautiful early spring day in Sweden. Soon it's time for a coffee break, so I will find an anchorage. And on this anchorage I will take you on a deck tour, a cockpit tour and a full interior tour. The islands here is less than an hour away from the Hallberg-Rassy yard. The place is called Vasholmarna. You can find a lot of nice anchorage. You can go alongside with the boat if you want to moor alongside the rock, or you can simply anchor or use a buoy that we will do now. Coffee break is over, so we will start with the deck and cockpit tour. This 340 here has twin wheels. The 340 comes standard with tiller, so it's an option you can make. On this boat we have one plotter pod on the starboard side and nothing on the port side. You have the option to add a plotter box also on the port side if you want that. In this box here you have the plotter, you have the chart reader, and you have Genoa in and out. So this boat has electrical furlegs for the Genoa jib, and you control that here. Here you have the RPM for the engine and also the control panel. So this is where you switch the engine on and off. The throttle for the main engine is here. Next to the RPM you have the control for the bow thruster. So on the 340 you have the option to order bow thruster in a tunnel or a retractable bow thruster as it is on this boat. And to fold it out of the hull you push both on buttons at the same time, and now it's out. And you can use it by pushing here. To retract it back into the hull, you push off. Close to the helmsman's position, which is here, you have 4 winches that you can reach from here, also the forward one. On this boat here, we have the 2 aft pair of winches powered. You have the option to order all 4 powered, but in most cases 2 is enough. So here we are on the other side, on the port side, in the cockpit at the wheel. On this side you have the control panel for the autopilot, but having that said, you can also control the autopilot in the chart plotter on the starboard side, meaning you're very flexible. You can do it both here and on the starboard side. Above the autopilot you have the control panel for the compass light, navigation light, engine running light, and also deck light. This is also where you control the emergency bilge pump, the powered winches, and the sail functions. And as you can see, you have proper places to hold on to, both here and here. Behind the twin wheels, you have the outlet for the aft shower. You have the manual bilge pump on the starboard side. You have one GPS antenna for the AIS, that's the small one on the port side, and the GPS antenna for the chart plotter on the other side. So on the floor here you can see also where the rudder bearings come up. If we open here, we have a big storage, and also this is the place for the gas bottles. This is where you store the handle for the manual bilge pump plus the hose for the aft shower. And if you notice here in the middle, you have a nice little foot brace. So when the boat heels, you have really good support for your feet here. And at the aft end of the cockpit, it ends with the swim platform, a huge swim platform. So you have a control line here that you simply pull, and it comes up like that. So this is the huge cockpit locker. This is where you store the cockpit table and washboards, and you have separate holders for both the washboards and the cockpit table. On top of that you have a fire extinguisher, and under the floor is where the hot water tank is mounted. And next to the hot water tank under the floor is also where we mount a heater. And this is a great place to keep the heater because it is as far away from the saloon and the aft cabin and the V cabin. So you can't barely hear it, which is nice. Here you have a fitting for a life belt. Inside the cockpit you have 4 port lights, one here, one there, and 2 here. I like those very much because you can open them. They are protected under the spray hood, so you can keep them open if it's raining or whatever. Behind me here you have speakers. So you have a stereo radio on board with speakers both inside and outside. The anti-slip material on this boat here is PU teak. PU teak stands for polyurethane. You have the option to order real teak if you prefer that, or you can have PU teak, real teak in cockpit, and white gel coat anti-slip on walk deck. You can see it's a very generous cockpit to be a 34 feet boat. It's very protected. You have high coaming and very nice, comfortable backrest angle. You can see here that you have a small edge here. You can sit here for a very long time and do a really comfortable passage. As you all know, it's a twin rudder boat, but it is also a twin wheel boat, and that makes it so easy to move around the cockpit, to walk up and down the swim platform, and also it's very easy to walk between the wheels. So this is how you slide the entrance into the boat. As you can see, I sit perfectly here in the corner. It's very protected if it's bad weather. You have a fixed window here with tempered glass. The mid-sections opens for ventilation. You can remove the blue cover here to cover it with a spray hood. You have I-70S Raymarine instruments, 3 of them together with an old school compass and a 12-volt outlet. On the cockpit coaming here, you can see that all the halyards, the lines from the mast, come out here. The excess lines is stored in this box. It's a big proper box where you can store all the extra lines, and it's the same on the port side. Moving out of the cockpit and onto the side deck, there are some features I would like to show you. One special thing that we do here on all Hallberg-Rassy models is that we have a tow rail, and here we have 3 deck drains. That means that all the water, rainwater, all the water that comes on deck drains out under the waterline. And this keeps your hull clean throughout the season because there are no dirt stripes outside of the hull, as all the water drains out inside under the waterline. On both sides, you can control the sheeting points by pulling here and lock it like that. You have points here for asymmetrical spinnaker, genaker or code 0. The shore power inlet is here. And you have ventilation to the engine room back here. And also, as you can see, the cleats are mounted on top of the tow rail. The tow rail here comes standard like that, and you will get the tow rail looking like this if you order real teak or if you order the boat with PU teak. To protect the tow rail, we have stainless strips here next to all the cleats. And you have a standard one cleat in the aft here. You have another cleat in the center of the boat and also one in the bow. Here in the bow, we have, as you can see, all the skylights are completely flushed. We have the navigation lights here, completely protected, like this. Forward mooring cleats with the strips here to avoid shaving from the mooring line. As we have talked about earlier, she has electrical furlegs under deck here, so the engine is well protected. And if we open here, we have a huge anchor locker. On this boat here, we don't have a windlass in the bow, but if you would order that, the windlass comes here. And the ultra anchor and chain goes through the bowsprit in the bow. And as the bow is plumped, it's very good to have the anchor a bit out in the bowsprit so you don't hit the bow when you take the anchor up and down. On the bowsprit here you can see 2 points, and this is where you mount the platform for the bow ladder. So you have, on this boat you have a platform that you mount, and then you hang the bow ladder onto that platform. So moving slowly backwards here, there are some features I would like to show you. We have a solar panel here in front of the windshield. You have really good ventilation throughout the boat via these ventilators here. If water would come on deck, you have ping pong balls that floats up, so there is never any risk of water coming into the boat. As you can see here, the lines, the halyards, is led via turning block under the roof all the way back to cockpit. You have beautiful stainless handrails here. What we see here is a spare halyard or boom lift, and this is a 2-to-1 halyard. So it's what we call a code 0 halyard. Here at the inmast furling we have the winch that control the endless line. So this is the line you pull to get the sail in and out. This is the vang, but it also keeps the boom up. So you don't need a boom lift to keep the boom in this position. Another Hallberg-Rassy invention is that we mount the inner shrouds and the outer shrouds far apart. So the inner shroud is mounted next to the superstructure, and the outer shroud is mounted just next to the tow rail. This gives an easy passage on walk deck if you walk with a bag or whatever. It's the perfect place to sheet the Genoa jib, the slightly overlapping Genoa jib. And it also gives a wide spreader base on the rig, which gives a sturdy rig. So we are on the port side here on walk deck, and you can see here that we have a blue color and it says water. So it means it's the filling point for the freshwater tank. So, and the freshwater tank is in the center of the boat, under the saloon sofa. And on the starboard side we have the filling point for the diesel tank. And the diesel tank is also in the center of the boat, but under the starboard sofa. Welcome into the saloon of the Hallberg-Rassy 340. I will start the tour in the galley in the 340. I think this galley is super clever because, as you can see here, if you're out sailing in rough conditions, I have fantastic support behind here. I'm out of the way of the natural flow in the boat. So even though I'm here cooking in the galley, you can easily move around in the saloon. The stove is gimbaled, so it can move like this. And in the galley, you have really good ventilation. You can open here, and you can open here. Behind the sliding doors here, you have a lot of storage, and we use this very clever system to store plates and glasses, so you can simply move them around to adjust them after the size of plates and glasses that you have. And the reason we're using sliding doors is that we have a gas stove here, but if you have sliding doors you can open them even when cooking, so it's clever. We have a top-loaded refrigerator here. It's also big. You have boxes here that goes all the way back here. And it's the same thing here. It's a really sea-going refrigerator because when it's top-loaded, you can use it in all type of conditions. It doesn't matter how the boat heels. Another reason to turn the galley like this, on top of just being out of the way when working in the galley, is that we could pull the work surface of the galley further back. So it's a big galley to be on a 34-feeter. You can work here, you can work here, and you can store things while cooking all the way back here. And you have another nice storage here for cups and glasses. Double sinks, and in this case also with 2 covers. Another small and very nice detail is that the covers here, it has small ears. So if you remove one cover, the other one will stay in place in rough weather. Drawers here, storage for pots and pans under the oven there. The worktop area is in Korean composite stone. And this is, as always, on Hallberg-Rassy, cutting board here. We have a combined fiddle and handrail, both here and here. This goes throughout the boat. You have always a place to hold on to when moving around in the boat. Here, here, and also in the ceiling here. Here in the saloon of the 340, we have a lot of natural light. I have the windows in the superstructure exactly in my eye height, so I have good visibility outside when standing up. But if I sit down, I still have a fantastic view through the port lights in the hull sides. I want to put it in short a little bit what we are especially proud of in the saloon here. What you gain with a modern hull shape is inner volume. Yes, it gives a wider boat. You can stretch everything both forward and aft in the boat, but it also gives sailing performance. So it's a win-win solution really with a modern hull shape as we have here on the 340. What you see is a really wide saloon. We have moved a lot of things aft in the boat because we can do that, because you have so much volume in the back. That is how you get a long L sofa, a big galley in the corner there, and proper length of the saloon sofas. In the forward part of the saloon here, we have a wooden cover. Behind this cover, we have a galvanized steel support for the mast, which is vertical from here all the way down to the keel stiffener under the sole. Under the mast support here, you have another steel beam molded into the keel stiffener under the sole here. All structural bulkheads in our boats are laminated with the L-shaped laminates on both sides towards the hull, superstructure and deck. If you want to use it as a normal berth, you can fold it here and you get a much wider berth. So for sleeping in a marina or at an anchorage, you keep the backrest up here. Both on the starboard side and the port side, it's a very good place to sleep during rougher conditions, because here in the saloon is the center of the movement really. So if you mount a sea berth here, which is canvas cloth, you sleep really well here and you have really good support. You have the cushion on one side and the canvas cloth on the other side. You also have a lot of storage behind the backrest here, and on this side you can also reach it from top, or you can order the boat with a retractable TV on this side. This is part of the hull stiffener, but it's a horizontal part that goes from the forward part of the boat to the aft part of the boat, and this gives a lot of torsional stiffness to the hull. One has to remember that when you add port lights to the hull, as we do and many others, this weakens the hull. You have to make the hull stiffener and the keel stiffener stronger. So we have this horizontal hull stiffener on top of the normal keel stiffener, which is mounted under the sole here. Under the sofas here in the saloon is where we have, on the starboard side, we have the fuel tank, and on the port side, we have the water tank. And the good thing to have them here is that it's center of gravity of the boat. So you want all the heavy things in the boat here. We move over to the port side. We are still close to the entrance of the boat. This is where we have the electrical panel, the control panel for all the functions on board. And as always, you can open like this and you find a really nice installation. Each cable is labeled, so you can read on each cable what it does. You have the stereo up here, you have speakers in the saloon and also speakers in the cockpit. You have the control panel for the heater. You have the monitor to overview the batteries. And below here you have the meter for water and fuel. So you have 277 liters of water and 188 liters of fuel. You have the switch for instruments, that's speed and depth. Multifunction display is chart plotter, autopilot, AIS. You switch on and off here. Spare means that you have empty positions for future equipment. You control the tank meter here, the freshwater pump, engine fan, and more empty spare ones for future installations next to those switches here. We have power outlets here, 12 volt on top and 220 volt below. And under the electrical panel we have more storage. Welcome into the aft cabin in the 340. It's a very generous cabin. It's a proper double berth. You have a hanging locker here. You have a shelf here for smartphones. And you have additional storage here. And as throughout the boat, proper ventilation. And if you have a shelf, you also have a fiddle on it. So if you store things here, it will stay there and will not fall out, even if you open the door during rough weather. As standard in all the sleeping cabins, you have sandwich foam. So it is 2 centimeters softer foam in the top and then 10 centimeters harder foam underneath. You have the option to order sprung mattresses or with memory foam. You can also order top mattresses, and you can have shape sewn sheets also in each cabin. The fabric and cushions overall in all Hallberg-Rassy models, from the smallest one to the biggest Hallberg-Rassy, is made after measurements in each boat. In the aft cabin here you have one port light in the hull here, and on top of that you have totally 4 port lights which are possible to open. You have an outlet for the heater here, power outlet there, and the switches for the lights are here. Before moving forward into the boat, I want to mention some information about the doors. The door frame is laminated out of solid wood, and the doors throughout the boat has a core of honeycomb, and it makes the door stiff yet light. So in front of the main bulkhead here in the saloon on the starboard side, you have a huge hanging locker on the starboard side. It's a very generous head to be on a 34-seater. You have ventilation via skylight, and you can open the port light here. The holding tank, the toilet tank, is hidden behind the bulkhead above the toilet. It can be empty into the water by gravity, or you can also empty it from deck. You can take a shower in here, and you have a drain pump that you control via the blue button on the port side, and you have an outlet for the heater, storage under the basin, and also storage on the deck on the port side. In the generous V cabin, you have shelf
on this side. You have a shelf on this side. Storage on both sides that you can open both here and here. Power outlet and the switches for the LED light, the spotlights, and outlet for the heater. Same as in the aft cabin, you have a sandwich mattress here with 10 centimeters of harder foam and 2 centimeters of softer foam, with the option to order sprung mattress or memory foam. You have a skylight here with mosquito net one way and blackout the other way. Worth mentioning is that we have clear glass throughout the boat. All the deck hatches, all the port lights, all the windows in the superstructure, it is with the clear glass to give you more natural light. So as you can see, it's a very wide and steady entrance into the boat. It's made of teak, which is great anti-slip, but it's not sensitive to water either. Behind here you have a ventilated shoe locker, and you can open the entrance like this. So it sits on gas springs. The engine room is very generous to be on a 34-feeter. Everything that you need to reach is easy to reach. The impeller sits right here. If you want to change the oil filter, you have a hatch especially for this. It's well ventilated, and if you remember on the deck tour, you could see the ventilators on the outside coaming of the cockpit. And you have the seawater filter here. All very easy to reach. The engine is a Volvo Penta D130, so she has 29 horsepower and it's a 3-cylinder engine. The engine room insulation has taped edges throughout the engine room, so it can never be soaked with oil or any other liquid. Here at Hallberg-Rassy we do everything rock solid, and I think the saloon table is a good example. So you can do this. Locker doors are with invisible hinges, ventilated, and with built-in end stoppers, like that. In short, to sum up the day a little bit, the Hallberg-Rassy 340 feels like a much larger yacht. If you look in the interior volume, it feels like a 38-feeter or more, and you gain so much out of a modern hull with the plumb bow and a long waterline and a wide stern. So inside she feels much larger. And this goes also with sailing. I've been doing some transport sailing and test sails in quite rough conditions with the 340, and she feels much larger than 34 feet. The hull speed, but also the comfort, because the long waterline gives so much comfort when you're out sailing in rough weather. So in short, it's a very big 34-feeter. Now it's time to wrap it up and take the short sail back to Ellis.
surfing back into Ellös after an amazing day on the water. It really is an amazing boat, the Hallberg-Rassy 340. She feels much bigger than 34 feet. And it goes both in the inside, because you get so much volume out of a modern hull, but also when sailing, the hull speed, I mean, 9.3 knots, that's without any surf or anything, that's real hull speed. It's amazing.